Friends, in 2013 a film terrified millions of people around the world. The Conjuring. This movie became a huge hit, earning more than $320 million at the box office. But do you know that The Conjuring was actually based on a true story? The story of a couple and their 5 daughters. It all began in the year 1971, in the U.S. state of Rhode Island. There stood a massive farmhouse, built on a large piece of land with 14 rooms. The house was known as the Arnold Estate. In 1971, Roger Perron, his wife Carolyn, and their 5 daughters, Andrea, Nancy, Christine, Cindy, and April, moved into this farmhouse. Roger was a jewelry salesman, and from the outside, they seemed like a happy, prosperous family. But what happened inside that farmhouse changed their lives forever. At first, during the first 10-12 days, everything seemed normal. But soon, strange things began to happen. The family noticed that their broom would disappear on its own and then reappear somewhere else in the house. At first, they ignored it. But then things escalated. Whenever someone in the family went to make tea or coffee, mysterious sounds came from the kitchen, as if someone was scraping metal against a kettle. But no one was in the kitchen at the time. They also began to find dirt and soil in the kitchen, even though Carolyn cleaned the kitchen daily. The family grew frightened, though Roger didn't believe at first. He thought his wife and daughters were just being paranoid, but something was truly wrong with that farmhouse. When they began researching the property's history, they discovered something horrifying. Nearly a century earlier, a woman named Bathsheba Sherman had lived in that house. Local legends claimed that she was a witch, practicing dark rituals on the land. After her death, 8 generations of families lived in that farmhouse. But in every generation, children died mysteriously. Many drowned in a nearby creek. Some were murdered, and others were found strangled. It was believed that Bathsheba had cursed the land with black magic, and her presence still haunted the farmhouse. She was buried in a nearby cemetery. As the Perron family continued living there, the paranormal activity intensified. They began to smell rotting flesh around the house. At night, their beds would shake violently on their own. From the basement came a horrible, cold stench that terrified Roger every time he went down. Even he, who had been skeptical, finally admitted something was very wrong. Around that time, a famous couple, Ed and Lorraine Warren, heard about the Perron family. The Warrens were paranormal investigators, who had founded the New England Society for Psychic Research back in 1952. Over their careers, they investigated more than 10,000 cases of hauntings and wrote books that later inspired many horror films. When the Warrens contacted the prince, Roger reluctantly allowed them to investigate. One night, they stayed in the farmhouse, attempting to communicate with the spirits. But then something terrifying happened. Carolyn became possessed. She was sitting on a chair when it began to shake violently. Suddenly, the chair lifted into the air. Carolyn's eyes were closed, but when she opened them, she began speaking in strange, unknown languages with a deep, unnatural voice. Everyone watched in shock as her chair was hurled across the room. The sight was so horrifying that Roger, fearing for his wife's life, angrily forced the Warrens to leave the house. The family continued to live there for years because they couldn't afford to move, and nobody wanted to buy the cursed property. Finally, in 1980, the prince left the farmhouse. But the horrors didn't stop there. In 1977, in another part of England, a family known as the Hodgsons began experiencing a similar haunting. Their 11-year-old daughter, Janet, witnessed her dresser moving across the room by itself. Soon the entire family heard strange knocks on the doors, dogs barking at empty rooms, and eerie voices echoing through the house. The case became so famous that even police officers witnessed paranormal activity. One officer reportedly saw a chair levitate into the air in front of him. This case became known worldwide as the Enfield haunting. As for the original Conjuring farmhouse, it still exists. In 2022, it was bought by a woman who turned it into a business where people could pay to stay overnight in the haunted house. But in 2025, the local government revoked her license, shutting down the operation. And so, the legacy of the Conjuring house continues to live on, terrifying everyone who dares to hear its story.